Hey there, Laurier football fans. Dan Polishuk here alongside Laurier football head coach Michael Faulds and fifth-year defensive lineman Marcus Tenney. And they're coming off a bye week, refreshed and rejuvenated, heading into senior day here on Friday night under the lights against the Carleton Ravens. And Coach, let's talk about the week of prep here. You've had a lot extra time to, like I said, get recharged for this matchup, an important matchup in your final home game against Carleton. What can you expect against the Ravens here?
Yeah, well, two things we wanted to accomplish in the bye week is work some scenarios that don't often come up but could come up in the final two regular season games and into the playoffs. And then you want your team to get, as you said, energized, rejuvenated, a little bit healthier, and we've accomplished both. So now we look ahead for a Carleton matchup, and Carleton's coming off a huge emotional win against their biggest rival, the Ottawa GGs, in the Panda game this past Sunday. So we know we're getting a team that's well coached by a former Laurier legend in Corey Grant. They've got some good players on both sides of the football. So it's going to take our best to come out victorious, and we're excited for our seniors Friday night.
It was definitely an exciting game to watch for the Ravens. They'll certainly be amped up after that big upset win over the Ottawa GGs. Marcus, how do you control that wave of emotions for Carleton and keep them in check and coming away still undefeated after this week's matchup?
I think with them coming off the Panda game, that's a big win for them. But, we have to look at them as they're still going to play their best. From that, if that was me, I'd be amped up. I'd be ready to play. A short week is a little limited amount of prep, but I'd still be ready to play and be ready to go for Friday.
Senior night for you, and I want to touch on your journey a little bit because really it wasn't until last year, your fourth season, where you latched on as a starter, a full-time starter with on the defensive side of the football as a defensive lineman, got your first career sack in your season opener against McMaster. But let's start with your journey. You switched over from fullback. Why the switch over to the defensive side of the football?
Yeah, so it pretty much kind of all started with Coach V. So I was playing, my first year didn't really play that much. Second year I got a couple snaps at fullback, played a couple games. And then in that winter, Coach V came to me and he said, hey, you want to come play defensive line? I definitely took him up on that opportunity, started playing in the winter practices, started to love it. I was falling out of love a little bit with fullback, and it was kind of a rekindling love that I found for D-line. So that winter grinded, the season came around, started to play a bit more games, and then into that fourth season got that starter spot, and then we're here now in my fifth year and going well and ready to play. So yeah.
And can you explain from a coach's perspective what it's like to see a player like Marcus? I hate to use the term late bloomer, but he seems to fit the bill in that respect a little bit.
Yeah, we look at ourselves as a developmental program, right, where we get athletes in here regardless of position, see them develop in the weight room, see how they're going to mature physically and with our coaching and with our template, and see where it all fits in. So Marcus is a great example. He was kind of flirting around the 240-pound area, kind of a middle-sized player, and he basically had two options. He was going to have to lean out a bit and get to 220, or we told him, Marcus, can you keep eating and get to 280, 290? And he was all for the latter. So Marcus is a very coachable person, well-liked in the locker room, and he took on that defensive role and got really excited about it. His coming out party was in defeat, but in the 2023 Yates Cup, he played outstanding, and that really propelled him for last season and the player you see today, which is one of the best defensive tackles in the province.
Yeah, how much pride do you take in yourself for what you've been able to, achieve doing position switch and adding on that weight? What was your favorite cheat meal, by the way, to get that weight up, by the way?
Favorite cheat meal?
Yeah.
Honestly, it was, I'd say pasta. That was just it was so calorie dense. I could just eat it and it would stay with me. So that was definitely the meal that would kind of, tie me over that 290 mark.
Yeah, but as you head into your final regular season home game as a Golden Hawk, have you had time to reflect of what you've been able to achieve in the 5 years here?
Yeah, it's I didn't know it would come this fast. I looked at the seniors in my first year when they were walking out and that, and then now to see myself doing it. Honestly, it's been a journey, and it's been a journey I would not, take for granted. I loved every second of it, from starting at fullback to the whole transition and that. It's just been a process of work, and I've just loved to do it. And, coming out for that, senior day walkout will be bittersweet, but I'm looking forward to, having that, game and just going out and play.
What do you lose potentially with, a guy like Marcus Tenney graduating this season?
Yeah, you know what? Anytime you lose seniors, each and every year we do, It's less about the person on the field. It's more about the person you interact with off the field for 365 days. So like I mentioned, Marcus, is an outstanding person. All players and coaches love him. He's so coachable. So we're going to miss the person we see every day in meetings, on the practice field, in the weight room. So that's what we'll miss. But it's kind of neat coming off the homecoming game of 2 weeks ago where you see the 2005 team come back 20 years later. Marcus is going to be one of those alum. He'll be welcomed here at our practices, at our games for the future. And I know he's going to come back with all his buddies and stuff. And he'll wear the Laurier gold and purple proudly for the rest of his life.
And that'll be probably in a blue-collar role. It looks like, or sounds like you're wanting to go into the trades, and plumbing's a passion of yours. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been doing plumbing with my dad since I was 13 years old. He's had his own business, so I've been working with him on the summers and that when I was in high school and then in the first couple years of university. And I've, transitioned. I did some landscaping with my roommate, Seb. For the past two or 3 years, I believe. And honestly, it's just about living where my feet are. Sometimes I like to look too far ahead and I kind of, get a little flustered. But I think if I just live where my feet are and take whatever opportunities, kind of comes up to me, I'm happy with that.
And as we're trying not to go week to week here, the team's looking awfully good. How is this team maybe a bit better to get across that maybe Vanier Cup finish line this season?
I think with this team is, we've had the experience to go all the way up to the Vanier, and we've, have a lot of returning guys. And I think with that, it's kind of gels us all together, and we've all kind of had that experience. So we know like when we're getting, to the Mitchell Bowl or to the Vanier, we've been there, and, we will, perform when the time comes.
Yeah. And last word to you, Coach. Again, final regular season home game, 2 games left in total in the season. What's the message to the guys in this week's practice?
Yeah, as Marcus said, live where your feet are and take advantage of every day you have. So you saw in that Panda game, Ottawa was coming off a bye, and they looked like they were coming off the bye week. So we've got to hit the ground running. We've got to have a great week of practice. We've got to fly around for our seniors Friday night, knowing that there's a big tilt the next week down in London. But we don't get to that next week tilt down in London unless we go 1-0 this week, and that's what we're focused to do.
Number 1 Golden Hawks for a 6th straight week will be again facing the Carleton Ravens here at University Stadium Friday night, 7 p.m. Tickets still available at tickets.laurierathletics.com. Check up on all your latest Laurier football news at laurierathletics.com and give this video a like and subscribe. So for head coach Michael Faulds, defensive lineman Marcus Tenney, I'm Dan Paulstuck. Go Hawks, go.